hope you all are having a wonderful day. And today I will be showing you how to install Windows 10 on a Raspberry Pi. But before that, I just want to say I've been teasing this for a long time, and as you can see by this thread, me and a bunch of other people have been working on this day in and day out for quite some time, and we finally have something that we can show you guys. Now, I just want to say big props to everybody who participated. We still need people who can code drivers, so if you can do that, please do hop on this thread and see what you can come up with. And on the other hand, I do want to say a big shout out to Nova Spirit Tech, who also gave me the footage to show you guys of the image actually being installed because my capture card broke. So thank you everybody, and let's get started. Now, I'll have links to everything that you need in the description down below, but let's get started anyways. The first thing you'll need is a copy of Minitool. You can also use gparted, but I'm just using Minitool for this tutorial to make it more easier for you guys to follow at home, since the majority of you will probably be running Windows anyway. The next thing you're going to need is the Uefi Package for the Raspberry Pi, which has been developed by Andrew. I don't know how you really pronounce it. I'm just going to call him Andrew. And you'll also need a copy of the UUP image, which you can get at this link here. And it'll have a batch file that'll create an ISO for it and everything, and I'll walk you all through that, so don't worry. The last thing as well is this zip file, which has all of the pre-compiled Raspberry Pi drivers. Now note, these drivers are not stable by any means of the imagination. The SD card driver is really slow, and the USB driver will most likely bug out on you a couple of times. And the other thing I might need to add, you will need to set a few hours aside for this, because this does take about 4 to 6 hours depending on how slow or how fast your SD card and reader are. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and grab the UEFI files. So just go to this link here. I'll have links to everything that I'm using in the video in the description. And just hit download zip and open it up. Like so, and now once you have it open, you're going to navigate to the binary folder and look for the pre-built images, and then go into this one here, which has WA, so Windows on ARM only, and you're going to navigate into the debug folder. Now, the reason why I recommend you use a debug build is because in case anything goes wrong, you can easily hook up a serial debugger and get any information you need to help us figure out things. So just go ahead and extract that there, and for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and rename this folder to Uefi so you guys can follow along very easily. Alright, now that's done, you can close out of WinRAR, head back to the link, and the next thing we're going to do is grab the UUP stuff for creating the Windows ISO. So just go ahead and hit for Windows 10 Insider, then go ahead and select build 17134. And just go ahead and select your language. And then select Windows 10 Professional. Do not select Windows 10 Home. I've heard that people have had issues with that. And just go ahead and click ISO compiler in one click. And now just go ahead and make a new folder and put all of that stuff in there. And now just go ahead and run the creating ISO image, or sorry, creating ISO batch file. More info and hit run anyways. This process, depending on your internet connection, will take anywhere from 20 minutes up to an hour. So I'm going to pause the video here, and I'll come back once the image is done being compiled. Alright, so once that's done, you'll get a prompt like this, and just press any key to exit and it'll close the command prompt. And the next thing we're going to want to do is mount the image. Now, Windows natively allows you to do this, so just double click on the image and it should mount like a CD. And then go under sources, and now we're going to grab the install.wim. So just press I a couple times until you get to this file here, and just grab it and copy it over to our working directory. So that's the folder where we have all this stuff in. Just go ahead and copy, and we're going to put it into that same Windows on Pi folder that we had before, which has all of our other files. Okay, so now that that's done, we're just going to go ahead and open up the next zip file here, which is the Win10 on Pi, and this will have all of our drivers in it. So just go ahead, open this up and extract it, like so. Now you're only going to need to grab the System32 folder because that's what all the driver files are in, as you can see here. Now once that's done, you can go ahead and also eject the Windows install disk. So just right click, eject, like so, and it'll go away. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is just go ahead and get down to the start menu here. As you can also see, I do have a text file with all of the commands that we're going to be doing in it. I'll also go through and explain these. But the first one we're going to do is we're going to mount the image to a directory. So just go ahead and open up a command prompt. Make sure you run it as administrator. So just go down to start menu, search, command prompt, right click, run as admin. Just hit yes. And I got a new prompt. Now we just basically go ahead and copy the sort of directory and cd into it real quick. Now here's the list of all the commands that I have. I also have these in the description down below, but go ahead and make a new folder called M. This is going to be where we mount the image file. Just head back here, and you can basically just copy and paste this command, like so. This will take a little bit of time. Now, a quick thing, if you do get an error about a certificate being revoked, I would say make sure you're running on the latest build of Windows. Sometimes running the insider build helps, which in my case it did. So I'll just leave this to run and I'll be right back. Now, if everything completed successfully, you'll get a screen like this, and you can go ahead and also check the directory to see that the image is now mounted in there like so. So we're just going to head back here. And now the next thing we're going to do is inject the drivers into the install.wim. Now, as you can see, this command here is for injecting the drivers. I'm just having it match up with the folder that I have. As you can see, I'll also change that to M because I did copy and paste these from somewhere else. So that will be the location in which you have your image mounted. System32 being the folder of the drivers, recurse to add every driver in that folder, and forceunsigned, meaning that it will use unsigned drivers. Just go ahead and run that. This should only take a couple of seconds. And once all the drivers have been added successfully, like you see here, we're going to go ahead and the next command we'll run is to unmount and basically commit the changes to the image, like so. And this will also take a little bit of time. Okay, so now that that's done, we can go ahead and plug in our SD card, and I'll show you guys how to partition that. We can go ahead and just close out of the command prompt here. Now, to cancel to that. So now let's just go ahead and open up Minitool, like so. Now I'm going to quickly go ahead here and just delete the existing partitions on my SD card. You probably will only have one partition, so just go ahead and delete the one that you have, and then just hit apply. Okay, now that you have no partitions on your SD card, we're going to create two. Now there's a couple of ways you could do this. You can create 2 or 3. I'm only going to create 2 for the sake of simplicity. You'll need one FAT32 partition, which will hold both the UEFI files and the Windows EFI files. That will allow Windows to boot and the Raspberry Pi to turn on. Make sure you give it like a reasonable size of over 100 megs, something like I did 300 for good measure, and we're going to go ahead and create the Windows partition here now. Both of these you will need to make them primary, by the way. So just go ahead and call this Windows and make sure that it is NTFS. Now we just go ahead and wait. Now once all that's done, you could just go ahead and hit OK. I will just close out of the partition wizard like so. Now the next step we're going to move on to is actually just copying all of the files over to the SD card. So we're going to copy all of the UEFI files to the boot partition, like so. And now we can also move on to actually adding the Windows installed to the drive. Now this is the part that will take quite a long time, so make sure you have a few hours set aside, and if you're doing this on a laptop, make sure you plug it into charge. So the next command we're going to do is the image apply command. So just copy it like so. Paste it in. Now as you can see, the image file is the name of the install, and the directory is the drive in which you want it to apply to. So in my case it's F, and make sure you apply it to the right drive. Now I'm just going to cut ahead because this did take a couple of hours to actually image the drive. And once it's done imaging the drive, you'll get a prompt that looks something like this, where it says the operation is completed. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to copy the Windows EFI files using the bcdboot command. As you can see, F is the Windows drive and E being the boot drive. Now once that's done, there's 2 more bcdedit commands we gotta do, and the first one being enable test signing. Now test signing means that Windows will not check for the verification that it normally would when loading a driver. If you do not enable this, you will get a blue screen, well not really a blue screen, but a screen that will tell you that it cannot validate the drivers and the system will halt, it will not boot. The second one will also kind of goes along with the test signing procedure, that it will not 100% check all the drivers, it will try to use them as it can anyways. Now this will be the final thing we really will need a computer for, and this registry file that we're making here will skip the Windows setup, and the reason for this is Windows will not install on this device. It will just error out and say Windows setup cannot continue, please restart to restart the installation, and you guys will see that error later. That error will also come in handy, by the way. So just go ahead and copy all of this, and we'll open up a new notepad file next. Now we just go ahead and paste all these commands into here, like so. And go to File, Save As. And I tried saving it directly onto the drive, but it won't let me. You'll see in a second here that it errored out. But just name it something like finish.reg, and make sure you save it as all files. Do not save it as a txt. So yeah, I just had to end up saving it to my desktop. You will get that error, by the way, as well. So just go ahead, save it onto your desktop, and then later on, go ahead and move it onto your drive. And once you move that file onto the root of your SD card, you can go ahead and put the SD card in your Raspberry Pi and begin the process of installing Windows. Okay, if you see this screen, that means you did everything right, for the most part, up to this point. Now, I'm obviously fast forwarding everything here, but Windows will take about 5 minutes or so on a black screen, like at this bit here. This takes about 5 minutes, and then after that, you'll start seeing the Windows loading screen like this. Now, the first time you load this up, it will take a long time, so don't panic. It took me and Don about, I think it was somewhere in the ballpark of 40 or so minutes just for this to install. But at this point, after this screen, you will get an error code that looks something like this. Once you get that error code, hit Shift F10. Then you'll get a command prompt. Now, because of this error, we won't be able to get into Windows. So this is where the command prompt sort of comes in, and we need to do two things. We're going to enable the hidden administrator account, and we're going to run the registry hack to skip the rest of the setup and boot us into a desktop. So the first thing we're going to want to do is run MMC here, which will open up the management console, and we're going to go ahead and enable the hidden administrator account. Okay, so after that, we're going to go ahead up to where it says File here, and then just click Add and Remove Snap-in. And then we're going to add the computer management module. So just click on that and then hit add or double click it. And we're going to add it for the local computer. So let's just move this error message out the way. You'll get this error, but don't worry about that. Just hit OK and continue on anyways. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do is open up the local users and groups section here and then go under user. And then double click on the administrator account that you see right on the top here, like so. And now the next thing you're going to want to do is where it says account is disabled, uncheck that and just hit OK. Once that's done, you can go ahead, right click the account and do set password. Now you can leave the password blank or you can set whatever you want in this case. Just hit proceed to this message that you see here. And then you'll get the next dialog box to put in a password. Alright, now once that's done, we can go ahead and close out of the management console like so. You can hit no to this message. And now we're going to run the regedit file or the registry file, and that will get us past the setup. Now to run the file, just cd back to the root of your drive, so cd/ like so. And you can just run the file like this, just do regedit and the name of the file, in this case regi.reg, and just hit yes to this message here. Now once you do that, you can go back to the command prompt and do the shutdown command, which looks something like this. And this will then reboot the system. Sometimes the system won't reboot because of the USB drivers. If that doesn't happen, just remove the power cable and plug it back in and it should restart. So whether you reboot it or you forcefully reboot it because it hung, you should boot into the Windows desktop this time around. Now granted, you will hang at the please wait screen for like a good 40 or so minutes. This entire process alone takes about like 4 to 6 hours, and I just had to cut it down into basically a 15-minute video for you guys to actually be able to do this. So don't be surprised if things take a really, really long time. The boot process alone, even after installation, is about 15 minutes. And the reason for that is because we don't have access to the proprietary, I don't know what the exact name for it is, but I think it's like the burst driver the Linux kernel uses. So there's two drivers for the Raspberry Pi 3. There's the RSON driver, which is used by the BIOS to pass over to Linux the first time around, and that's what we're using in Windows. And that driver is only really meant to pass over boot files, and then the Linux kernel will take over, which has its own proprietary driver, which is a lot faster than the RSON driver. And because we don't have access to that, we really just are relying on a port of the RSON driver for Windows 10. Like I said before, if any of you know any sort of coding, or if you have experience in coding drivers for SD cards or USB devices, please do lend a hand. We really need drivers for this thing, and after that it should be relatively usable. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you. I hope you understood everything that I said in it. Don't forget to check out the links in the description if you haven't already. If you need anything, if you have any questions or comments, I'll try to answer the best I can. Granted, I won't be able to get to everybody, and I hope this works for you guys as well. Hopefully you have fun playing with it. Again, it's not something that's crazy usable as of yet, but hopefully with time it should be. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video, like it, share it with friends, and Patreon, stuff like that in the description. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. And I definitely will be making some more videos on this in the future because this is quite a cool thing, and I never thought I'd see the day that Windows will boot on a Raspberry Pi. So until then guys, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one.